have a problem when people make money out of it, because basically, you know, instead of being about people's sexuality, it's about how people profit from it, and it leads to inherently weird societies.
Now, actually, that's an interesting point. It gets me on to, Dr. Dines, onto the issue of it being such a big business, $96 billion, probably even more if you consider the sort of the black market economy involved as well. And I wonder, you know, how powerful the lobbying is. I know you mentioned it in your book, and you say that not a lot is known about it, but what is known about the power of the lobbying aspect of it?
Well, their lobbying organisation is called the Free Speech Coalition, and let me give you an example of just how powerful they are. There was a law passed in 1997, Child Protection Act, which said basically that the pornographers couldn't use anyone under the age of 18 or anyone who looked under the age of 18. And what the Free Speech Coalition did was basically bring a law to the Ashcroft Court saying, look, this limits our free speech. What we want is the ability to have women who look under 18 in pornography. The Ashcroft Court said yes, they agreed, and now what you have is an absolute ballooning of sites all over the internet of what are called like barely legal, which have women who are, I would assume, 18 but look much younger. They're in school uniforms, they behave in a much younger fashion. So what you see is kind of the normalization of sexualizing children and teenagers, and this was thanks to the Free Speech Coalition. It is an enormous business, and you know, pornography is a business. It is about profit. It is not about sexual empowerment. The pornographers are not out there to sexually empower us. They're out there to make a profit, and they will do whatever it takes. They will commodify any type of sexuality that they need be if it's going to make a profit.
Another email here from Hibist Kasa, who wrote into our Facebook page saying, porn actively feeds into the image of male dominance over women. It's the notion of power that sells. How can we stop it from permeating into the private lives of those who do not consume it?
Well, first of all, I think that email's perfectly right. Pornography works as well as you can debase women. I mean, the more you debase women in pornography, the greater the sexual sizzle. How do you prevent that? Well, I think we have to develop a gender-equal society. We have to have equality between women and men. And if we're trying to fight for equality and sexual equality, it is almost impossible when you have a juggernaut of pornography coming down the pike. What we need to do is to think about the way that pornography shapes our gender relationships, both in the bedroom and outside the bedroom. And as a feminist, and as someone who has worked for gender equality, I'm saying we're up against a wall when it comes to dealing with the pornography industry.
But it does feed so much other business, doesn't it? It's into the telecoms business, the hoteling business, banking business. When it's that permeated into society, it's going to be very hard to extricate it, isn't it?
No question. We're up against major capitalist organisations here. You give an example in the cable industry, Time Warner makes money from it, Comcast makes money from it, from satellite TV, Direct TV makes money from it, the banks make money, the credit card companies, the search engines, the real estate people. You have massive industries here feeding off the porn industry. So this is why I think that we need to have a mass movement against it. Individuals cannot stop a major conglomerate like this. We need to organise against it. We need to decide that our culture is worth more than the pornographers hijacking it.
There's an irony, isn't there, that in the same way the defence industry has been responsible for giving us so much in terms of technological advances with many of the products we use day to day, and even the internet to some degree, that the porn industry also has been responsible for technological advances too, hasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, when you think of the video recorder and the VCR, basically when the VCR started out, for every one regular tape that was rented, 4 were pornographic. So what you have is pornography really pushes forward the technology. It helped with the internet, it helped with the camera, it helped with the VCR, it's helped with cell phones. So, I mean, you have to think of pornography and technology as going hand in hand, yes.
And presumably with it being available on the internet more widely, and of course with mobile communication now going towards video and downloads and so on, it's going to permeate cultures that have largely actually managed to avoid or at least restrict pornographic access, isn't it?
Well, this is the point that I'm making in the book, is that we actually have never lived through a time like this. We have never been through a time when the average 11-year-old boy can download hardcore body-punishing pornography. This is a social experiment, and we don't know what the effects are going to be, but I can tell you from somebody who studies media and somebody who has studied pornography that this is going to change the nature of the way that we interact sexually. It's going to change the nature of the way we think about sexuality, the way we think about heterosexuality, the way we think about relationships. And I know that most people did not sign on to this experiment. This has been pushed by the pornographers, and as I've said before, it's basically a hijacking of our culture.
Let me ask you about what traction you've had with your organization, Stop Porn Culture, in trying to get some kind of movement towards this.
Well, one of the most successful things we did is a few of us created an anti-porn slideshow, which if you go onto the website stoppornculture.com, you can download for free with a 50-minute script and 100 slides. And we created this because what we want to do is get people to start doing grassroots organising. And this slideshow is now being given all over the United States of America. It's being given all over the world as well. And people are using it in community centres, in churches, in colleges, anywhere where people get together. So I really do encourage people to go to the Stop Porn Culture website to have a look at this. We've also got thousands of people who are on our mailing list. We've had conferences, we do trainings on how to give the lecture. So what we're trying to do is really build a grassroots movement from really nothing, because there's no real anti-porn movement out there.
Now, when you've talked a lot to thousands of young people at colleges and around the country as well, and around the world, I think, when you look at the feedback you get, are you optimistic that you can actually make a dent in this? Listening to their stories, obviously there are some who don't see the problem. I wonder how you're going to make a dent with those people.
Well, you know, what I find when I go around the country is that those who don't think it's a problem actually they're a minority. That most people, especially parents here, are very, very concerned about what's happening in this culture. I mean, parents are now in an impossible situation. Their job is to bring up kids in a culture so that the kids can operate in the culture when the parents aren't there. But the culture is now hypersexualized and toxic, so the parents have to keep the culture out, which is counterintuitive to parenting. So I am hopeful that we're going to have a movement of people who've basically had enough with the pornographers, who say, no, this is enough.
All right. Well, Dr. Dines, I thank you so much for taking this time to talk about the subject with us. Good luck with everything.
Thank you very much for interviewing me.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us with your questions. Remember, you can follow the program on Twitter. We'll keep you notified on upcoming shows, and you can send us questions and comments to pose to our guests. On the next show, could the leader of the Roman Catholic Church face charges at the International Criminal Court? The Vatican has apologized for the paedophilia scandal, but some say it's not enough. Outspoken human rights advocate Jeffrey Robertson makes the case for taking the Pope to court. Be sure to tune in for that from me and the team. We'll see you next time.